Hi everyone, and welcome to my intro video to A Course in Miracles. I just came inside. It's almost sunset, or the sun is starting to go down outside. I wish you guys could see the view right now. And Mike is clearing our front yard with some trees that have died and stuff. So there's a big bonfire going on outside. And I was just sitting outside all bundled up and reading, and I was like, oh, I feel like doing a Course in Miracles video. So I ran inside, took all my various layers of stuff out, and here I am with you all talking about A Course in Miracles. And I'm really excited to be doing this coaching course for a number of reasons. As I've mentioned on a few of the calls in the past, through an organization called Pathways of Light, I did a number of binders that explained A Course in Miracles to me. And I talk about it all the time. A lot of the principles that I talk to you all about on the calls or any of the stuff I write about on my blog post, a lot of it is based on A Course in Miracles. So this is definitely a big part of the philosophy, is a big part of how I live my life and my perspective on things. But it's not quite an easy book. It's not the kind of book that you just go out and purchase and just read beginning to end. Now, it has nothing to do with the number of pages, because I will tell you, reading a book this thick is not really that big of a deal for me. But it's just that you could spend an hour reading one page over and over again and like just contemplating it. So part of the reason we've had such a delay starting this thing is because I'm like, how do I start a course in A Course in Miracles? And should we do a binder from Pathways of Light? Because those were amazing experiences for me, and maybe I'll do a binder with you all and take you all through it, and we may still do that. But the truth is that the best way to do A Course in Miracles is to actually read the text and jump in and do it. So I know what we're doing for our first lesson, which is going to be Chapter 1, Section 1. And for the rest of it, I will just let Holy Spirit, which is the Course in Miracles term for your connection to God, so that the actual connection between you and higher power is referred to as the Holy Spirit in the Course in Miracles language. So we'll just let that connection take the lead and tell us where we go next. So today, really all I want to talk about is the book and the introduction. And I think after the first few of these, you will know if A Course in Miracles is for you or not. A Course in Miracles is called A Course in Miracles and not The Course in Miracles, because it is a new way of thinking, a thought system shift, a shift of perspective. And it does not claim to be the one and only way to get through life, the one and only right answer, the one truth. And so that is why it's called A Course in Miracles, which means it doesn't have to be the perfect right thing for you. And there's still a lot that you can get out of it, even if you aren't going to go through and read the whole book. However, if you do really want to study A Course in Miracles, my personal recommendation is to do the 365 lessons in the workbook, approximately one a day. Some of them, depending on the lesson, may take you more than one day, but to go through them in order, one at a time. And that is how to really start taking this message and practicing it. So let's talk about what's in the book, A Course in Miracles. So this book, every time you purchase A Course in Miracles, what you're actually getting is 3 books in one. And so the 3 parts of A Course in Miracles is the text, which has chapters. Show you table content there. So there's different chapters in the text. Whoa, there we go. And different sections. So you'll see the chapter 1, the meaning of miracles, and principles of miracles is section 1. And then the second book in here is what's called the workbook. And the workbook has 365 lessons, one for every day of the year, to practice with A Course in Miracles. And lessons start easy and they build on each other and they progressively get more and more advanced as you go through them. The lessons take probably less than 5 minutes to read, beginning to end. Some of them are just one paragraph. Some of them are a page of reading. They're pretty straightforward, and they usually require you to spend a few minutes throughout the day. So I'll say 30 minutes total, because it might be 5 minutes 5 times during the day to reflect on the lesson. So that's the lessons. The workbook of A Course in Miracles made up of 365 lessons. So that's the second book that is all housed within the same book right here. Let's see if I can here's lesson 44, for example, over here. So it's within the actual book itself. And then the last part of the book, way at the end over here, is the manual for teachers. And there's some powerful stuff in here too. So when it says the manual for teachers, what we would traditionally think that means is if I were to be teaching this class to you, this would be the manual for me to use as a teacher of this. That's actually not what it refers to. Teachers in A Course in Miracles refers to every single one of us. One of the quotes from A Course in Miracles is, everybody is called, but few respond or answer, I believe. Everyone is called, but few answer, which means everybody is called, but very few people actually decide to take on this practice and live their life this way. So if you're somebody who wants to take on this practice and live your life in accordance with A Course in Miracles, you are by definition a teacher. And we are all a teacher and a student at the exact same time. You never stop being a student, and you never stop being a teacher, because you're always a student and learning something new, and always, by the way you're behaving, being a teacher for all those around you. So there's some beautiful philosophies in here, which I can't wait to get into. So today, let's talk about just the introduction. So by next Wednesday, what I'd like you to do is just read the preface of A Course in Miracles, which was actually written after the entire course was done. It just gives you a little bit of background about how the course came to be. And for those of you who don't know, there was 2 people who are responsible for bringing us the course, Helen Schumann and William Thetford. They were both instructors at Columbia University. And at the time that they were in Columbia, there were a lot of political stuff going on, a lot of fighting for resources. And Helen and William didn't really get along super well with one another. And at about the same time, not the exact same moment, but about the same time, they both said, there must be a better way. And one of the things that A Course in Miracles says is all that is needed for a change of perspective is your willingness. And I talk about this all the time in coaching. You don't have to know how. You don't have to have the answer. You don't have to figure any of it out. You just have to be open and willing to be used to allow a miracle to come forward. And it takes so much pressure off. The miracle comes just by saying, I'm willing to see this differently. So when you're mad at someone, or you have a situation at work, or you have a situation in your relationship, if you can just take a deep breath and say to yourself, I am willing to see this differently, that is the only invitation God needs to come in and work the miracle that needs to be done in that moment. All it takes is the willingness. So they were both willing to see things differently. And then Helen started hearing this voice, and it suggested that she take notes. And so she didn't know what this was. She freaked out. She came to Bill, and Bill said, take notes. Let's see what happens. And it resulted in this little puppy right here. So I'd like to read to you today just the introduction, because that in and of itself could be an entire group coaching call. I find it to be very powerful. So it's the very first thing within the text is a page called the introduction, and I put it in our Facebook post talking about this training. I actually wrote it down in there. And also for all of this, the entire Course in Miracles is online. We're going to be, we may just go through starting at the beginning and go through one topic area after another. I'm not really sure yet, but I will tell you ahead of time what section we're going through, and you can easily just go online and print out that section, or you can purchase the book at, I don't know how much it is on Amazon, but it's not that much money if you just want to purchase the book and have it. But you can also just do it all online, so you know. So this is the introduction to A Course in Miracles. And I'm going to read the whole thing, and then I'm going to go through line by line. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So let's take this one at a time. So this is A Course in Miracles. Nothing in that sentence is capitalized. So what I was talking about earlier, this is one path and one way. It never claims to be the only path or the only way or the right way or any of that. So this is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. What does that mean? So it is a required course means that part of each one of our life journeys is to understand the universal truth that exists. You'll notice if you read things in A Course in Miracles, and my religious upbringing is being Muslim and Islam, there's so much in A Course in Miracles that is completely aligned with everything I've learned in my religion. And no matter what your religion or your belief system is, even if it is not a major religion that believes in God, even if it's law of attraction or spirituality, you'll see that so much of what A Course in Miracles talks about is aligned to that. And I'm sure you all have had that experience in many different ways, because the truth is the truth. And there is one truth that's used and spoken with different words and different examples and different books and different languages, but the true principles are always the true principles. So when it says it is a required course, it means that the lessons in this, in A Course in Miracles, i.e. the lessons of life, i.e. the lessons of being human here on earth, are lessons that we are going to learn one way or the other, whether we learn it through some sort of organized fashion or whether we learn it through life experience. Only the time you take it is voluntary. So how much time and energy you spend being in this state of mind, that's 100% your free will, your free choice. So the lessons are going to be there. You will go through life experiences that will teach you lessons that are based on quote unquote truth. But however much time you spend reflecting and being aware of these lessons, that's 100% up to you. That's your time. That's your volunteering to do that. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. I love this line, you all. And I've talked about this so many times, and it's not necessarily a popular thing to talk about in the law of attraction community or the spiritual community, but there is, you all know me. You know that I'm a huge fan of joy and following your joy and doing the things that makes you happy. And I'm also a huge fan of discipline. And I don't mean discipline as a four-letter word where a lot of people hear that. But for a lot of this stuff, like A Course in Miracles, when I went through the binders at A Pathway of Light, with my facilitator, she had me sign a contract with her about my course of study here in A Course in Miracles. There's times with everything, think about it in relationships, think about it with a marriage, there are times where things get really tough. And what feels the most joyful in that moment is to just be like, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm not having fun. And that's where a little bit of discipline comes in to go, okay, this is not the most fun moment, and I'm going to sit here with my discomfort, and I'm going to grow out of my discomfort. But in order to grow past that discomfort or grow out of that discomfort, sometimes you have to sit in it, not for long, not forever, not for 20 years, for a minute. You have to sit in that and allow yourself to learn that lesson. And so that's what this line means to me. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. You can choose the time you take for this is voluntary, but you don't get to establish the life lessons that you have. You don't get to establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. So again, what this means is, and this is something we've talked about, and I'm sure you all have experiences in your own life, the lesson will continue to repeat until you learn whatever you need to learn from that lesson. So if today's not the day to learn the lesson, no big deal. You can not take the time right now. You have that free will to choose that. But that lesson will keep coming up over and over and over again until you are willing to have a change of perspective so that you can allow a miracle to come in. So I'm going to keep using some of the words from A Course in Miracles to understand that it is a new way of thinking. And let me give you an example of this. I talk about we're all here in the school of something, the school of relationship, the school of health, the school of work, whatever it is. We're all here to learn whatever it is that we're here to learn. So we tend to have the same situation happen over and over again. So let's not talk about ourselves because it's a little bit harder with self-awareness, but we'll talk about a friend of yours because we all have a friend. And we all have a friend who has issues with their job, and then they quit their job, and then they go and they get a new job, and they end up having the exact same issues with the new job, even though at the old job it was the boss's fault, and if only they had a different boss, everything would be fine, and that's all that they needed. So then they go get a new job, and everything's great, and their boss is awesome, and the next thing you know, it's their boss's fault again, and that job doesn't work out. And the lesson there is, it's not the boss. And you can see it, because you've heard these stories, you've heard your friend's story over and over again, and you go, you know what, it can't be your boss every single time, but your friend truly cannot see it. Their perspective is set in such a way that they are seeing the facts that make that story completely real for them. And that's where the mind shift comes in with A Course in Miracles. Because A Course in Miracles, in that moment, you say, I know I am seeing facts that show me that it is my boss. I'm aware of that. I can see that I keep seeing the facts that it's my boss. And I am absolutely, completely, 100% sure that the issue is definitely my boss. I bet the farm. I'm sure on that. But I'm willing to see it differently. And just your willingness is enough for the miracle to occur. And what happens then is by you saying, I'm willing to see things differently, all of a sudden another coworker comes over and goes, hey, did you hear about blah, blah, blah situation with our boss? And you're like, what? Our boss has that personal situation? I never knew. Yeah, haven't you noticed she's been really cranky and she hasn't been giving us a lot of time and she hasn't been coming into work as much and stuff? It's like, yeah, I noticed all that. And I just thought it was because of my relationship with her. I had no idea that there's this whole other thing going on. All it takes is the willingness to see things differently. So you can be 100% sure you're right. You can be 100% sure of the facts. But just by saying, I am willing to see things differently, that is what allows a miracle to come forward. I don't even know what I was talking about, y'all. I don't know what I'm talking about now. Okay, let's see. The Course, it means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. So the lessons are going to come. You don't have to learn this lesson this time, but as soon as you're just saying, I am willing to see things differently, that's all the Course asks for is your willingness. That is when the lesson can come, where love can overtake fear, and that's where you have a miracle. Miracle is where love overtakes. The perception of love overtakes the perception of fear, and that's what creates the miracle. All right, so the next line. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. So again, this Course is saying we're not about teaching you what love is about, because that's not something that we can write a book and teach you the meaning of love. So this one goes hand in hand with the next line. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So now everything that we're going to talk about from here on out are the two big concepts in A Course in Miracles. So again, the Course in Miracles is based on your thinking, on how your mind works. And it tells you that the way that you see one world costs you the way that you see another world. So if you're looking at the world through the eyes of fear, you literally at that moment in time cannot see a world through the eyes of love. If in that moment you're seeing the the world through eyes of fear, then that is the world you are choosing in that moment. And the same happens if you choose, which is when you say, I'm willing to see it differently. I'm seeing a world through the eyes of fear. I'm willing to see it differently. You're choosing to look through the eyes of love. You will see a completely different world. Exact same facts, put together in a different fashion that gives you a complete change of perception, which is what the miracle is, seeing from the eyes of fear to the eyes of love. So now what this is saying, the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So this is what the Course in Miracles is saying. All that exists is love. The real world, the truth with a capital T, is everything is love. The truth is nothing bad is ever happening. The truth is that when you think something bad's happening, you have for a moment forgotten, and you've put on your fear goggles instead of your love goggles. And so when you think you're seeing something bad happening, the Course in Miracles would say, you're actually not seeing it all. You're in a nightmare. You're in an illusion. You think it's real, just like when you have a nightmare and you wake up and you think it's real, it feels so real. Your heart's pounding and you're scared and it takes a minute to remember where you are. It feels very real, but it's not real. It's just an illusion. That's what the Course in Miracles says. Love is always there. Love is always present. There is no need to teach you how to get to love, how to feel love, how to see through the eyes of love. That's natural. That's how you naturally work. What the Course is doing is removing all the blocks you took to your natural state. You were born seeing the world through the eyes of love, and then something happened, and then mommy said this, daddy did this, your grandmother did that, your older siblings, God knows I have 2 of them, add a whole bunch of blocks on for them, just because it was fun for them, whatever. All of those things happened and created blocks between you and your natural state of love. And so all this Course is doing is saying, oh, I keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again because somewhere at the age of 2, I put a block and I chose this is how I'm going to see the world. But it's not real. It's not real because only love is real. Anything that does not equate to love, it's not real. And so I keep seeing the same nightmare over and over again. And maybe you've experienced those where you have the same reoccurring nightmare over and over and over again. And our minds start to think that that nightmare is real. But we know, no, it's not real. It's just a nightmare. It's just my worst fears coming up. And those in A Course in Miracles are your blocks to love. So it doesn't aim to teach you love, but teach you how to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence being your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear. But what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So fear is not real. The nightmare is not real. Only love is real. So then it says, the Course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. So let's think about that. If it's real, it's just real, and there's nothing you can do to make it unreal. I mean, if real is just real. So love is real. It's always there. You can choose whether to see it. You can choose to put on fear goggles. You can choose to put on love goggles. That's your free will. That's your choice. That's your curriculum. Doesn't change the fact that it's still real. You can believe that there's a boogeyman under your bed, and you cannot sleep in your bed, and you can sleep with the lights on, and you can do all the crazy things you want. It doesn't mean there's actually a boogeyman under your bed. So you can choose to believe it. That's your free will, but that doesn't make it real just because you believe it. So nothing real can be threatened. At the same time, nothing unreal exists. So nothing real can be threatened, i.e. love is all-encompassing. Love is everything that is. Nothing unreal exists, i.e. fear is not real. It's a nightmare. It's a perception. We think we're living it. It feels real, but it's never real. And then it says, therein lies the peace of God. Because there is only one real thing, and that's love. And you all probably had experiences of this, and I know we've talked about this too, the horrible, terrible thing that happened to you. And then 2 years later, you're like, oh my God, that was the best thing that happened to me. Getting fired from my job and hitting rock bottom was the best thing. It led me here, and now I'm a ski instructor living in Aspen, and you know, I get to do my favorite thing every single day of my life, and it would have never happened if my boss hadn't fired me, right? And that's what this is all about, is knowing that even when your body's eyes, your what the Course in Miracles would call your ego self, your lower self, and it's not bad, it's this, and this practice of spirituality, it doesn't make your ego bad. Your ego is just the one who's always trying to protect you, and so oftentimes we'll put on the fear goggles. And that's why you have to connect to your higher self, and you ask the Holy Spirit your connection to your higher self, your connection to Source, and of course in Miracles, it's God, your connection to God, to say, I want to see this differently, because right now I'm seeing with the fear goggles. I know I'm seeing through the fear goggles. I'd love to see through the love goggles, but I don't even know how. I don't even know where the heck the love goggles are. I don't even know how the heck I could start to see the love goggles. I don't even know where to begin. And all you got to do is say, but I'm willing. I have no idea how, but I'm willing. And that's how it starts. So that, my friends, is Introduction to A Course in Miracles. And you can see that that introduction normally to a book would take you 30 seconds to read and you're already on to the next thing. But that really does sum up so many of the key principles of A Course in Miracles. So the next thing I just want to talk about for a minute, and then we'll really dive into this next week, is what we're going to be talking about, which is Chapter 1, Section 1, Principles of Miracles, where there's 50 of these Principles of Miracles. So I just want to talk to you about the very first one, which I wrote an entire blog post on, and actually I'll put that up into the Facebook group so you all can read this, because I had a lot of fun with that one. So Principle of Chapter 1, Section 1, Number 1. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. So miracle is just looking through the eyes of love instead of the eyes of fear. So whether the miracle that you want is to find the back to your earring that just fell off, and you know it's somewhere right here within 1 square foot of you all around on each side, or whether the miracle is that you want your dream job to come up, or whether the miracle is that you want healing for a disease, a life-threatening disease, whatever you're asking for as your miracle, one is not harder than the other, one is not bigger than the other. They all require the exact same principle and the exact same way of doing stuff. Same thing with the law of attraction. You all know this, whether you're trying to bring $10 million into your life or trying to find a parking space in the first row at Target. It's the exact same principles. It's the exact same way that you do things. One is no bigger or different than the other. So same thing with the miracles. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One doesn't happen faster than the other. There's no reason, if you need instantaneous healing, that you ask for that miracle and you can't have instantaneous healing. It's not like, oh, that's a big miracle, just same as law of attraction. It's not like, oh, well, I'm asking for $10 million, so then, you know, I'm probably gonna have to wait 6 years for that because $10 million is a lot. It doesn't work that way. So there is no order of difficulty in miracles. And I want to leave you with that because I want you to ask for miracles. And this is how you ask for a miracle. You're in a situation and you're not feeling good. And so you're feeling fearful, you're feeling scared, you're feeling angry, you're feeling mad. You're not feeling the peace of love. And all you say in that situation, you don't sit there and try to think about it. You don't sit there and try to figure it out. You just say, I am willing to see this differently. Grant me a miracle. And that's it. And take a deep breath and do something that makes you joyful, because that always helps speed everything up, and allow the miracle to come forward. So I hope you all practice that this week. Whenever you're finding yourself not in that peaceful state of mind, and you know what that feels like for yourself. You know what you feel like when you're just peace, right? I mean, happy, content, peaceful, in a state of love where somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're like, oh, come on in, honey. That's good. She must be in a hurry today. That state where you're good. So whenever you find yourself not in that state, it means fear goggles got put on instead of love goggles. No big deal. This is not a judgment thing, right? That's your ego protecting yourself. That's why the fear goggles got put on. But you say to yourself, oh goodness, I put on the fear goggles. And what I really want here is a miracle. And I'm willing to see this situation differently. And of course, in Miracles, that's all that is required of you is a willingness. Say this also when you talk about calling in a higher power. People say when you want to call in the angels or call in your fairies or whatever your belief system is, you have to ask. You have to ask them to come in. That's kind of the same thing as this. You're saying, I am willing to see things differently. I am open to a miracle. It's your asking. It's that pause of saying the way that I see the path I'm on. I heard what she said. I know how I feel about what she said. I know what happened last time she said this. I know exactly where we're going to go next. I know what she's going to say next. I know what I'm going to say in response. And I know how this is going to escalate and get out of control. Don't want to walk that path. What I really want is a miracle. And so I'm willing to see this differently. Grant me a miracle. And then let it go. And let's see what happens this week. Thank you all. This has been so fun for me. I am so excited to be talking to you all about this. And there's so much to say as I'm trying to figure out some new ways of interacting with everybody in 2018. And got a couple of them figured out. Some of them I'm just going to play with some different ways and we'll figure it out together. You all know me well enough to know that I just kind of lean in and see what feels right and work with it and do all of that. But starting March 1st, I am going to start doing things as a subscription. And I'm really excited about this because I have so many things I've recorded and courses I've recorded and things that I've done in the past that if you've been with me long enough, you've already been exposed to. I come back across these things and I'm like, man, this is good. And I have new things I want to say about it and new thoughts about it. And so as part of this subscription, you'll be getting that. And then I'm trying to figure out what I want to do about Facebook. If I want to create a new group or I just want to make things easy for people and uncomplicated. So I don't know all those answers just yet, but I think I will do videos like this in the subscription and send them over to you all and just all kinds of different things over there and create that community. And then there also will continue to be free stuff and adventures with Amina because that's just kind of how I roll. And I'm already starting to get set up for Joy Challenge in April again this year. So tell your friends and doing some cool stuff with Joy Challenge again this year. And so there's a lot of fun stuff coming up and I am excited about it. And I'm a little nervous and I'm a little overwhelmed because some of this requires technical, logistical stuff that is not my highest joy. And so I'm kind of putting a little bit of it off. So I want to just give a shout out to Holly who keeps saying, so what's happening with that? And I'm like, oh, I gotta figure it out. And she's like, do you want me to do it for you? And I'm like, yeah, thank you. So I appreciate all of the love and support for everybody who has jumped in and just all the encouragement. Lauren has been emailing me about Course in Miracles stuff and giving me suggestions and questions and thoughts, and all of it helps you all. So thank you. I really do feel like we're all in this great community together. And I'm looking forward to next Wednesday night where we'll start diving into the principles one at a time. And there will be a lot more discussion and interaction in those sections. They will be actually group coaching, so I'll have some stuff prepared to talk to you about. And then I'll be, instead of giving you my examples, asking you all for examples about how to use this and also answering any questions that you have. I am by no means an expert in A Course in Miracles, but I'm happy to give you my perspectives on stuff. And then also, if you are interested in continuing your education, Marianne Williamson does a free talk. I think now it is on Wednesday nights. I always listen to the recording, so I don't remember exactly what night it is. It used to be Monday nights. I believe it's Wednesdays. If you go to mariannewilliamson.com, you can see their free live stream recordings, and she talks about a different topic in A Course in Miracles. Pathways of Light has a whole set of binders. One's called Star Child. One's about loving yourself. They're fantastic. And then obviously the best way to do it is just to start at the beginning and do one lesson a day. The lessons are so powerful I have gone through the lessons a total of 3 times, all the way from beginning to end, and I recently just started my 4th time. So like I said, you're always a teacher and you're always a student. It never really ends. And I don't know who all's live. Oh, I see Janice over here. I see a couple of you are watching live, and I've just been so focused on talking. So whoever's here live, it's great. Thank you guys for joining live and spending time with me. And for those of you who are watching this video later, enjoy and have a wonderful rest of your evening, everybody. Love you so much, and talk to you next week. Bye.